rising on a worn-out town, paint peeling off them old brick signs. Folks work hard, keep their heads down, trying to hold on to better times. Used to leave your door unlocked at night, now everybody's got a camera on. Still got faith if we get it right, we can fix what's gone wrong. Ain't about talk, ain't about show, it's about the way we live, the way we know. Let's get back to dirt roads, back to porch lights, never standing up when it ain't polite. Cold beer, hot true stars up above, a little less noise and a whole lot of love. Red, white, blue ain't a trend we chase, it's sweat on your shirt and calloused hands grace. If we're gonna stand, we don't stand apart, we gotta go.
Good evening and welcome into Apex News Above the Noise. I am Kyle Thompson.
And I'm Craig Blanton on the wrong side of the screen.
It's all right. We're just trying to do things, seeing how things go. We are live here from Creekside Studios at the Yak Shack for today's show. Craig, we got another busy day. It's been a wild couple of weeks. We're going to start with where we've been for at least the last couple of weeks. The Senate Judiciary Committee took up Todd Blanche's nomination for Attorney General this morning. And Chuck Grassley opened by saying out loud that the two Republicans who blocked it were right. Then to the ballot box, because it's primary day in 5 states. We talked about this yesterday. And the marquee race is Michigan. That is the clearest test yet of which direction the Democrat Party is going. Bernie Sanders candidate against a Chuck Schumer candidate for an open Senate seat in a state that decides presidents, because that's what Michigan does. Then to Iran, where the president said talks were resuming. Tehran said there are no talks. Shocker. Just another day.
Right. Nothing changed. Nothing changed at all.
And the president responded by calling Iranian leadership unbelievably duplicitous and saying this is their last chance, wagging his finger probably at him as well. While the Treasury Secretary says the deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz could land today or tomorrow, it has not at this point. Gas is at $4.09. Then to a courtroom where 25 states sued the administration yesterday over the newest round of tariffs. Kentucky is one of them, and we'll discuss why it wasn't our attorney general who actually filed that lawsuit, because he's a Republican, but Andy isn't going to miss an opportunity to get involved. There are a couple of side topics we'll talk about. The Fauci contempt vote is actually scheduled for a Thursday morning now. They moved that to Thursday. And the transfer portal opened up yesterday, quasi, because there are now reports coming out that the NCAA is going to try to block fifth-year players again, which matters here because
it's so close to the season.
Because they just dig in. And Mark Pope is sitting on that empty chair that we've talked about all summer long, waiting for exactly this. But let's get into all of it. But before we do get into tonight's show, welcome in to Apex News Above the Noise. We started this show so that you could have all the facts without all of the spin. And if tonight gives you something to think about, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you click that notification bell so that you're notified every time we're about to go live, and share it with someone who needs to be above the noise. Now, let's get into tonight's story.
Have some fun.
What's that?
So let's have some fun.
Yeah, let's have some fun with this one. This morning, the Senate Judiciary Committee met to vote on Todd Blanche's nomination to be Attorney General of the United States, the vote that was supposed to happen last Thursday, if you remember, Craig, and didn't because two Republicans on that committee would not commit, and then they canceled the vote. You know the story by now. John Cornyn of Texas, Tom Tillis of North Carolina spent 2 weeks demanding written assurances on two things: that the $1.776 billion Anti-Weaponization Fund was permanently dead, and that the audit protections in the president's IRS settlement applied only to existing claims and not to his future tax filings. Sunday, Blanche posted a signed order killing the fund and a written clarification narrowing the audit protections. Monday morning, Cornyn and Tillis said yes, and this morning the committee took it up with Republicans holding a 12-10 edge on the panel. It goes to the full Senate, which it did, where Republicans hold 53 seats. Some background worth having in front of you. Blanche was on the president's defense team in the hush money trial. He was confirmed as Deputy Attorney General in February of last year, 52-46. And he was nominated for this job in April after the president fired Pam Bondi, very memorably, amid reporting that he was frustrated she wasn't pursuing legal action against his political opponents aggressively enough. Not real sure if that's the whole reason. I think you and I have both said, didn't appear she was doing anything with
Right. She
anything
was
that was
sitting
happening.
on her hands, I thought, especially compared to what Blanche has done since he's been acting.
This guy's been a dog off a chain since
Yeah,
he's
he has.
been there. That's the context in which the Senate is confirming an attorney general tonight, Craig. Before we get into what got said in that room and what Chuck Grassley said, which has to be, we have to report on that. Let's step back for a second. The last attorney general was fired, according to all reports, for not going after enough of the president's enemies. I don't think that was true. I think she was just sitting on a lot of things, including totally mishandling the Epstein file,
Yeah.
which we have talked about here before. Whatever you think of Blanche the man, what does that sequence tell you about what the job has become at this point?
Well, she was fired, I think, because early on she screwed up in bondage. I'm talking about when she said, "I've got 10,000 files on my desk. We're going to have to make a decision real quick," which was absolutely false. Nothing came forward. Blanche has been going 100 miles an hour ever since he's been in office. They found billions in fraud.
Yep.
They've been kicking people out of the country, criminal, illegal aliens out of the country. He's not let a single blade of grass grow under his feet because he is going in 40 different directions at once. I think he's doing a good job myself, much better than Pam Bondi. I don't know if she wasn't capable, but she was certainly not she was 1% of what he's done in his acting role.
Just in the activities that he's taken, he's more willing to take questions, whether you like his answers or not. He is taking questions.
Yep.
It appears that he's moving on some things that need.
And he can answer the questions.
Yeah, it appears the Justice Department is active in the things that they are doing. Whereas, look, I understand they probably were under Bondi, but you're seeing the fruits of that at this point.
Right.
You weren't, while she was there. It's a little frustrating, but it is what it is.
Well, yeah, they expanded today. In Philadelphia, they found $400 million worth of Medicaid fraud. So their New England task
sounds
force
familiar.
Now,
yeah,
their New England task force is finding fraud up there in those states is now including Philadelphia, and that's in Pennsylvania in total, I reckon. But they specifically named Philadelphia is going to now be in their target sites for Medicaid fraud. I mean,
yeah, especially with elections coming up, that will obviously get politicized on both sides.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Here's here's the part that got almost no attention this morning and should have gotten a lot. Chuck Grassley, the chairman, the man who had to cancel his own committee's vote last week because his own party members wouldn't go along, opened the meeting by saying he agreed with Cornyn and Tillis, not tolerated, not understood, agreed. He said he shared their concerns about the president's settlement with the IRS. He expressed gratitude that the Anti-Weaponization Fund has been formally rescinded. And I think they all kind of speak for a lot of Republicans across the country, and that we didn't really like it. And for all the problems that I have with John Cornyn and Tom Tillis, I don't have a problem with them holding firm on this. And I think a lot of Republicans and conservatives and moderates will agree with that.
Yeah, it was the right decision for those two to make, because when they leaked his tax records, and he's been audited every year for 30 years, the only thing he gets out of it is Trump gets out of it's an apology, and they can't go back and re-audit his and his children's and his company's records in the past. In the future, he'll be audited. He's eligible to be audited again. Sure. And all the big companies are audited every year.
Yeah,
they're audited every year. So no big deal.
Listen, if you're making $100 million, you're being audited.
You're going to
probably have IRS agents that are assigned.
Yeah, and you got a whole department of accountants and lawyers.
Of course, you should be held to them. Yeah. And then Grassley criticized how long it took to get there. His words: "It's just a crime that it took so long to work out with such a common sense thing that's pretty simple." Read that sentence again, and it kind of strikes you, Craig, and that he's saying we got to use more common sense because a Republican committee chairman just said that his own administration spent 2 weeks stonewalling on something he considers simple common sense. On the other side, Democrats used the meeting to make the argument they've been making all along. Senator Chris Coons framed Blanche as a man who would not stand up to the president when the moment required. And there's one more piece we'd flag for everyone, because we said last night we'd keep watching this. NBC News reports that even with the carve-outs in Blanche's documents, the Justice Department retains other avenues. We're not going to speculate about what those are, but the reporting exists and we'll follow it in the future. But that's just where things are right now. I hope they don't go down that path. I genuinely do. Craig Grassley didn't just accept the outcome. He said the holdouts were right and that it's a crime it took this long. That's a chairman siding with his rebels against the administration, if you will, on the record. Does that tell you Cornyn and Tillis had more quiet company on that committee than anybody wanted to admit? Or is this simply Chuck Grassley, who has worked for 25 years with John Cornyn and Tom Tillis, trying to just get each other's back one last time?
Well, I think he was just, it was the right thing to do. There's no two ways around it. You can't selectively give the president that much kind of power, and after a settlement on an agreement that probably never should have. I mean, think about it like this. Democrats rightly pointed out, he didn't sue prior to becoming president. He sued while he was president.
Correct.
He settled his own case. He didn't. Obviously, the IRS and the DOJ did. But he's ultimately responsible. You know, the buck stops here and all that stuff. And so that's what made it on appearance is completely wrong. If he'd have sued beforehand and said, hey, I'll settle for a $1.776 billion because you leaked my information to the New York Times, which is against the federal law, or if he just said, whoever leaked it, you know, they go to jail for 20 years for committing that federal felony, then that's fine. But it just on the appearance of what happened, it shines a bad light on Trump.
It does.
The senators took care of it. They did the right thing. It went 12-10. I watched this entire hearing this morning, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second, but good Lord.
Well, let's close the loop on what we've been talking about here over the last couple of days, actually all the way back to last Thursday, because we've been careful with this story, and we're going to stay careful. What Cornyn and Tillis won is real. There is now a signed federal order stating that the Anti-Weaponization Fund does not exist, and a written Justice Department acknowledgement that the president's audit protections cover only claims already open at the time of the settlement, not his future returns.
Right.
2 weeks ago, neither of those documents existed, and the department was refusing to produce them. You and I said at that time, fix this. Just fix it. This is ridiculous. You're urinating in the wind. You know, it's doing you absolutely no good. What they did not win, we told you last night per Axios, Sunday's order rescinded Blanche's own May implementing order, but not the provision of the underlying settlement, because there is a settlement out there, and that settlement says this money is going to be provided to the Trump administration or whoever. So that's still out there.
But there's nobody to administer it because
there is no there is no mechanism by which that money is going to be paid.
And it's not in a bank
back
account
out.
nowhere. It's not in a bank account drawing interest, anything like that.
Yeah, that settlement can only be modified by written agreement between the parties, and there has to be privity of contract, something that I've said a lot lately. And the president, his sons, and the Trump organization did not sign anything Sunday. Blanche himself testified in July that the settlement is enforceable, and on Friday, 2 days before he signed, the president wrote that he will always feel those people should be paid back. So here's the honest scorecard. 2 retiring senators forced an administration to put in writing something it did not want to put in writing, and their own chairman said publicly they were right to do it, and the underlying contractual obligation is still out there, unsigned by the people who would have to sign it to remove it. But Todd Blanche is going to be the new attorney general. And that is, so you take your lumps, you move on, and everybody forgets what happened a week ago, except for the pundits who will now say, oh, do you remember when Trump tried to give people $1.7 billion?
It'll never go away. It'll
never go away. And that's why, and I think, Craig, you'll agree with me, this administration has to start focusing on things that your average American gives a damn about, because a $1.77 billion anti-weaponization whatever, we don't care about that. We don't. We care that the gas prices are too high. We care that the food prices are a little higher than we want to be paying. We're mad that our interest rates are higher than they should be. We're mad that Iran is still going. Fix those issues.
Yeah, a lot of that's context.
It is, but at the same time, it's
yesterday we reported $80 and something.
Correct.
Right now it's $75.77. So it's down another 5.688% today.
But you know as well as I do, if we drive up to the Shell
Oh, sure.
over here on
Yeah.
Schinkle,
Yeah.
I'm paying $3.87 a gallon or
Yeah.
something ridiculous.
And food, everything we got is increased because of gasoline, because of delivery
100%.
charges, and because of regulations, and because the 21.5% Biden put on us
Era.
during his 4 years,
Right.
and the 6% over it's 15, 18 months. It's about 2.78%, I think, is inflation under this Trump term. The first Trump term is 1.76% over the 4 years,
Yep.
average per year. So it accumulates. It never goes down. That's why the price is nothing. And we've talked about that before. And we can get Gary Stratton on here. We can go into deep detail how inflation works and all that kind of stuff, and that's planned to go up. And
I think people would be surprised how much of what affects their life is just math.
it is.
It's people say, well, I didn't, when am I ever going to use calculus or algebra? Here, there are variables like in algebra, and it doesn't change. The fact that inflation is something that has been you've been able to watch over the last 300 years. It is a math problem, and so you have to figure out how to fix that math problem. My take is this: I'm going to say the thing that I said last night, and then I add the part that changed today. Last night I said Cornyn and Tillis got the strongest paper available to them. That paper is only as good as the willingness to honor it, though. And the two men willing to enforce it leave in January. I still believe that, but here's what's new. Chuck Grassley stood up this morning and said the holdouts were right, and that was a common sense fix, and it's a crime. It took 2 weeks. That matters more than it probably sounds at this time, because the story everybody told for the 2 weeks was that this was two lame ducks being difficult, and the chairman of the committee just contradicted that in public. And you and I said this a week ago. This isn't just two lame ducks. As much as we have issues with Cornyn and Tillis, they were right about this, and they should have fixed this quicker. And honestly, there shouldn't have been a public fight about this. This is as simple as it gets when it comes.
It's cake.
Yeah, go in the back room and fix this stuff, and don't let this leak out. Which brings me back to something Cornyn said last week, that the president is mistaken if he thinks these concerns are limited to him and Tillis. Add Grassley's statement this morning. Add Bill Cassidy, again, another lame duck, somebody that was defeated, saying he wouldn't commit. And I think we can stop treating this as two guys with nothing to lose. It was two guys willing to say it. That's different. And it's worse because it means the constraint on executive power inside that conference isn't a shortage of concerns. It's a shortage of nerve, potentially. And nerve is renewable. Somebody in that room saw two colleagues take a public beating from the president, win the argument, and get vindicated by their chairman. And that's a lesson available to 51 other Republican senators at this point.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. If a lot of these people, instead of going to their X account or going to run to a reporter, to spout off about things, this is kind of how I feel about Thomas Massie at times. If they would go into the White House and talk to this president and work out whatever issues you have, that goes a whole lot further in trying to negotiate those things than having a war of words out there in social media. Does it get you clicks? Absolutely. Does it rile up your base? Absolutely. But the same goes for the Democrats. The Democrats could solve half of their problems. They don't want to. They don't want to go to the White House and negotiate these things. They don't want to get with John Thune and negotiate things like the Save America Act. They don't want to negotiate it. So the Republicans, who have the majority in both houses, at least for the next 4 months, they got to get it together. They got to have these little battles behind closed doors and have just like the Democrats have, a monolith when they actually get out into the public.
And Republicans don't. Well, I looked up inflation since the year 2000. So something that cost $1 in 2000 now costs $1.94. So if it's $100, it's now $194.
Right.
So if it's 1,000, it's $1,940.
Yep.
So that's just so you can blame it on the president. You can blame it on their policies. That's just the nature of the beast. There's so many things they can't control it. You got the Strait of Hormuz, you got the Red Sea, you got the Mediterranean. There's so many things that come into play.
Yep.
But I'll tell you one thing that'll fix our oil, as we've discussed several times. We start processing our own light sweet crude and quit exporting that across the country. Then they can have all the damn battles they want over at the Red Sea and in Arab countries. We've got more than enough oil for 200 years and coal for 400 years to keep us running without anything going. Who cares what goes on over there? Then Europe will have to step up, and Japan and South Korea.
Well, it's going to be a big win for whoever the next. It's going to be a big win for whoever the next president is, because those will go online during the next presidency, whoever that may be. Hopefully, because my fear, as I think is one of your fears, is that come January 20th, 2029, that if a Democrat wins the presidency, Madam President AOC, she'll go in there and she'll kill it. She'll kill the refining plant that would make us energy, independent completely.
I think it's planned to process about 600,000 barrels a day. We need about 10 of those plants. We need about 10 of them to come online. On the California coast, which will never happen. On the West Coast, that'll never happen. But in the Gulf, and maybe even on the Atlantic side.
Yeah.
But we are Puerto Rico even. Well, somewhere we need to have these things online to process our oil, take care of our own energy. Then we're going to work with Canada. We're going to work with maybe Alberta votes and they become their own independent country.
October
then forget the hell with Canada. Alberta's got all their energy.
They're the breadbasket in the energy source.
They finance their whole country.
Yeah.
So Alberta will come in our fold. Mexico, most people don't realize Mexico sends a lot of oil to America, but Mexico lately, because of their refineries getting in ill repair, they are keeping their oil inside their country and refining their own oil for their own use. But Venezuela will come back, and between Venezuela, what we got and what Canada's got, we'll blow the Arab world away on the amount of energy.
Well,
so that should be no problem.
Well, and Europe needs to understand.
Well,
as soon as this happens,
Europe's lost.
We're out of there.
Yeah, exactly.
We have no reason
to be anything with Europe.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, the Don Rowe doctrinal.
Are you going to talk about the hearing, or just you want me to go into it for just a minute?
You can go into it in just a minute if you want to.
Okay, the vote obviously was 12-10, which we knew it would be. But I'm telling you, the way the Democrats attacked Todd Blanche, I'm just see that they made him out worse than a zombie killer.
Yeah.
I mean, they could not say one nice thing about him. And as it went along, and I told Teresa,
but that's how they all are now.
Yeah,
there is no gaslighting on any of these guys.
Well, here's a Trump hater. Get ready to watch.
Yeah.
Listen what they say.
It was like when Hegseth was nominated.
They were all just wearing this guy out. They kept saying he was Trump's lawyer. Well, of course he was. Everybody knows he was Trump's lawyer before he got appointed Attorney General.
Bobby Kennedy was JFK's brother. What else you want?
Yeah, and they said, well, he's Trump's lawyer now. Well, remember that saying, and I just didn't get home in time when Obama's Attorney General, God, I can't think of his name right now. Eric Holder said, I'm Obama's boy, or something like that.
Yeah.
Which means he's got his back.
Of course.
I don't remember the Democrats screaming about that.
No, because they were in charge then.
Right. And so it was pretty bad. It wasn't bad. It was really bad. The way that tells me that Democrats and Republicans are never going to get along because of the way they attack this hearing.
There used to be a time when you could get people from each party to break off to vote for nominees.
Not this.
Those days are over.
Party line vote. Yeah. And so this led me to believe, I told Teresa, I said, this is why the Democrat Socialists of America are making inroads into the Democrats, because the Democrats, they're trying to suck up to the left. Yeah. The far left doesn't care. The DSA, they don't care. They could, I told you what Chuck Schumer said today.
Yeah. We're getting ready to go into that story. But if the Democrats, if some of those Democrats would peel off and be reasonable, they'd actually gain votes.
Exactly.
They'd have all the moderates in the middle. They're missing out on all the moderates. And all those people that say, I didn't leave the Democrat Party, it left me. This is a good example of it.
I'm a perfect example.
Same here. I was a registered Democrat.
I was a Democrat from 18 till about 63, maybe something like that. And they left me alone. They're crazy.
Yeah. Well,
the National Democrats.
From a confirmation fight in one party to an identity fight in the other, because voters in 5 states are at the polls right now. And the biggest race on the board is a referendum on what the Democrat Party is going to be, Craig. Voters in 5 states are casting primary ballots at this very moment. And the marquee contest is in the mitten state of Michigan, a Democratic Senate primary for an open seat, and about as clean a test of that party's direction as you're going to get. Here's the setup. Senator Gary Peters, who's actually on that same committee that we just talked about, a Democrat, first elected in 2014, is retiring. That leaves an open seat in a state that decides presidential elections, and the 2 main candidates come with about the clearest possible labels. This is for the Democrat side. The Republican side is going to be Mike Rogers. But the Democrat side, that's still up in the air, although you and I think it's over. We think Al-Saeed's going to win this. But on one side,
Fauci and that
Fauci
other
and
one,
Polymarket both say that.
98%.
Yeah. On one side, Abdul El-Saeed, a physician, I shouldn't say that, a guy who went to medical school.
Right.
He's not a physician. He's
But
never
he passes
passed boards.
himself off as
He
a
was
physician.
the head of the health services in the state of Michigan. Never been a doctor at all. And former Detroit health director, endorsed and backed by Senator Bernie Sanders. And on the other side, Congresswoman Haley Stevens, 4 terms in the House, backed by Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer. Also on the ballot are Rachel Howard, Mallory McMorrow. McMorrow essentially has withdrawn and thrown her vote to El-Saeed, I believe.
Right. Yeah, that's correct. Just
the Associated Press framed it this way, that Michigan will offer the country its clearest gauge yet on the direction of the Democratic Party, and that this contest carries extra weight precisely because Michigan is a key state in a presidential race. There have been progressive versus establishment primaries elsewhere this cycle, but those are in New York or Illinois, places that they're gonna vote blue no matter what. But
I've got a list.
Yeah, Michigan flips back and forth. It's a bellwether state. We know it's one of those toss-up states that they talk about. And there have been these establishment versus progressive things in the past. This one in this state that has decided the last several presidential elections. One mechanical note here is that Michigan runs an open primary, which means you don't have to be a registered Democrat to vote in it. But split ticket voting isn't allowed. You pick one party's ballot. That's so you can be a Republican and you can go in and you can vote a Democrat ticket if you want to, but you can't vote half Democrat, half Republican, everything else. If you're going to vote on the Democrat side, it's all Democrat or nothing. I've already called my cousin who lives in Michigan. I asked her to make sure to wished her a happy primary day and to make sure she went and voted for her favorite communist today. She laughed and said she had already voted. Craig, a Sanders candidate against a Schumer candidate, open seat, battleground state. This is the argument Democrats have been having with themselves since 2016, really, if you go back that far, and then AOC popping up. And they keep not resolving it. Does a primary in Michigan actually settle anything, or does the losing side just say the other guy would have lost worse in November? I will say this. I think tomorrow, when Abdul El-Saeed wins, there's going to be press conferences. They're going to be gloating. They're going to be taking a victory lap. Yeah. They're going to essentially say, we're here to stay. Thank you, Democrat Party, for your party. And by the way, they've hijacked your party.
Yeah.
They have taken your party over. And when I say they, I'm talking about the Democrat Socialists of America. They have taken over your party, and now it's theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what else to tell you.
Yeah, well, and Michigan's governor's also supporting him. I mean, supporting
her.
She's supporting Stevens.
Yeah.
Schumer is not. He didn't come out in support of El-Saeed. He just said we got a big tent, which is such a cop out.
And it's such a dumb thing to say.
Right, but he's got all the radicals in the Democrat Party are supporting El-Saeed. I'm gonna be watching that race and the Cori Bush race in Missouri. Those are going to be 2 fun races to watch. Whether she can knock off the guy that knocked her off,
right,
Bell, in the last election. So that's going to be something to watch. But I believe this El-Saeed election, if Republicans are smart across the country, from city commission level all the way up to the presidency, This will be when the Democrats lost control of their own party.
Because it's going to be in battleground states that this
Right.
matters. Look, in New York, where near New York City, where
Montgomery,
it's
DSA,
right.
he won,
Right.
Right,
but that's
the capital of the world.
Right, but that is a blue on blue on blue state.
Right.
But in
But
these
there were other
battleground
blue
states,
candidates running, including
I'm
Cuomo.
not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is, in those blue states,
Cuomo, yeah,
they are winning those, and then they're winning the general. Here, you're going to nominate a DSA member, whether he's come out and said it outright or not. You're
he said it through 2020, and then he was kind of quiet, and now all of a sudden, for political expediency, he said,
Sure.
I'm not a DSA.
But you're going to nominate a DSA member or a far left progressive, and I think they'll get beat in the general elections in these battleground states. I still think Mike Rogers right now is up a couple points.
I think he's up 10, that's what I heard, against El Said in the general.
So that nominate who you want. Charles Booker's another one. Charles Booker has never said he's a DSA member. He has all of the same DSA talking points, like literally down to a T.
Yeah.
And that's why he is going to get beat by Andy Barr easily.
He's going to get humiliated again.
3 times in a row.
In Michigan, I think the Democrats that are Democrats, not DSA Democrats that are Democrats, they, along with the Republicans, will vote Mike Rogers in. Well, because they don't want to lose their state to Muslim control, like what you're seeing in Europe.
But the independents are the one. You have to have the independent vote. Independents are not going to vote for
a DSA
member.
No,
they're not going to vote for socialists.
Yeah, Democrats, independents, the Democrats that are Democrats today, the independents and Republicans will vote Mike Rogers in, and he could win by double digits and shut this thing down good. Because they don't want their state. They don't want to lose control of their state to
and why would
DSA and Muslims?
Right, but why would the DNC, with what little money they will have coming in, spend any money in Michigan? Why? I mean, I think they're going to do a lot of lip service. I don't think they're going to send any money to that campaign.
I don't know why they would either. I mean,
even if George Soros isn't even funding DNC right now, so what little money they have, they're not going to send it to a far left progressive in this. And I think that's where
George Soros has not donated a single dollar
not this year
to the Democrat National Campaign Committee, nor has Roy Singham out of China not donated a single dollar to the Democrat Party.
Because they've already taken over their party. They're gonna individually give through whatever means they have, but they're not going to do it through that PAC anymore.
But I think this is going to be the straw that breaks the Democrat back.
Yeah, Michigan isn't the only thing on the ballot. Michigan Senate race is the only thing. Michigan voters are also picking nominees to succeed Governor Gretchen Whitmer, whose term limited, another open statewide office in a state that swings. And in Missouri, former Congresswoman, as you said, Cori Bush, is attempting a comeback. Bush, you'll remember, was a member of the progressive group known as the Squad, who lost her seat in a primary in 2024 after one of the most expensive primary campaigns in the history of the House. She is running again. Whitmer, whether she wins tells you something about whether the money that beat her the first time still has the same effect, and about whether primary electorates in safe Democrat districts have moved in the last 2 years. That's going to be another one that we will be able to pull out, and take a look at for that national picture, because it's genuinely unusual. This is not just two Democrats, fighting it out to think that this is a fight over the control over the Democrat Party. And if you don't believe that, then you're just missing what's happening across the country right now, and you're not reading the tea leaves right. There are 10 open Senate races this cycle. 4 Democrats and 6 Republicans are not seeking re-election. That's more retirements in one cycle than any year since 2012. 10 open Senate seats means 10 states where neither party has the advantage of incumbency. But then a lot of those are like in states like Kentucky, where Andy Barr will win by double digits. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it.
He will. He might win by 20.
He could. And then there are places like, Texas. Ken Paxton's not he's not a great.
He's behind right now.
But he's not going to lose to
Yeah,
Talarico.
I don't think
He's
so
not.
either.
Those are just early on. And this the single biggest advantage in American politics is incumbency. You don't have those in a lot of states right now.
97%.
In the general
There's
election,
a number of nerds out there.
yeah. The general election is November 3rd. Craig, 10 open Senate seats and the most retirements since 2012. On this show, we've spent 2 weeks talking about 2 retiring Republicans who found their voice on the way out the door. Is a wave of retirements and a sign the institution is broken, or is it just the normal churn everybody overreads? And what happens when Republicans keep the Senate? Because it appears they're going to keep the Senate, even if it's just by 1 vote.
Well, I think, yeah, I'm thinking 3. I think it'll be the same thing it is now.
I think it'll be 53-47.
Yeah.
I think they pick up Michigan. They lose. I think they pick up Michigan. They lose North Carolina.
Yeah, it's normal churn for this. There's the move across the country that all the young people in both parties are saying there's too many 80-year-olds, too many dinosaurs that are running the parties. So these guys they're stepping down. They're getting near the end of their life, and I'm sure they don't want to spend it in the halls of Congress. They want to spend some time with their family and their grandchildren a little bit anyway. And
some of these people are taking beatings. They want to get out of Washington.
Yeah, and if they know they're going to get beat, who wants to go out a loser?
Nah.
Nobody wants. They just retire on their own thing.
Yep.
People can say what they want to say, but in reality, in real world stuff, they just retired.
Well, and there are people who are getting primaried. Tom Tillis was going to be primaried.
Right.
He decided to retire, which actually will open up, a Senate seat that their former governor will probably take.
Right. Yeah.
Tillis probably could have beaten him had the threat of not being primary.
But
it just is
find a candidate to primary him.
Yeah. So it's kind of a mess, but we'll obviously keep an eye on things. Now we're recording this before polls are closed. You guys who have joined us, thank you for joining us live tonight. We're not going to tell you who won, obviously, because we don't know.
But I'll have them on my Facebook page if you want.
We'll be updating our socials as we get into it, and we gently suggest you be skeptical of anybody who tells you what tonight means before the votes are actually counted, because we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in Michigan. We don't know what's going to happen in Missouri, but those are big states to keep an eye on. But here's what we'll be watching. We'd suggest the same 3 things for you. 1, the margin, not the winner. Look at the margin.
Mm-hmm.
A 2-point win by either candidate in Michigan means the party is genuinely split. A 10-point win means one wing has actually consolidated, and that's a much bigger story.
It's going to be all polls are pointing at a 9 to 12% victory.
And let me tell you, if El Said wins by 10 points, Katie barred the door. I'm telling you, the press conferences tomorrow, the social media tonight, they're not even they're already not hiding it. They're saying it in the open. They'll be wearing their hammer and sickle red T-shirts tomorrow.
Right.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt. They're just going to come out and say it,
And like with your image there, with low voter turnout.
Yes, that's terrible. That is terrible for the establishment.
Candidates, they'll get their base out. Yeah. They will get them out and vote, and they'll be excited to vote. This is where the radicals, the DSA members, this is how they're winning these elections.
Well, they come from other states to not to vote. I'm not saying. I mean, They may, but they come to these states because they're rallying around this one individual, right?
Right.
Low voter turnout, and it's not every state's voting, right? So they can have this big push tonight, and they could win. The second thing I want you to take into consideration:
there's 20 of them running. There's 20 of them running.
Yeah. Turnout in the Detroit metro versus the rest of the state. And this is going to be huge. And I think if you're watching this tonight and you're watching, any of the guys, what's the guy, Harry Enton on CNN, he'll have this stat. I can guarantee you he's going to have this stat. Michigan Democratic primaries have historically been decided by whether Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties show up in proportion to everywhere else.
Yep.
And the 2 candidates have very different geographic bases. There is nobody that will tell you any differently. Haley Stevens is all the Democrats who are rural and suburban, right?
And she's got a funny voice.
And then city center Democrats are going to push for El Said
because he's promising them all this free stuff.
Right. The third thing is what the losing side says by Wednesday morning. That's the one thing I want you all. You all can come back here tomorrow night. We'll tell you what they said, but be checking this out. Does the loser endorse the winner immediately, or is there a week of silence? Because Michigan is a genuine battleground in November. And if Haley Stevens, who will have a large swath, as you said, of your old school Democrats and even some independents who will vote for her, if she does not get behind this, now we have to really push for El Said to win this thing. Boy, the Democrats could be in a world of trouble. If one wing of that party decides to sit on its hands after tonight, that being the losing side,
Right.
Republicans have a real opportunity in a state they've won before, and they need to win because they're losing North Carolina.
Right.
And from where we sit, that's the actual stake here tonight. Not who's more progressive, but whether the party that loses tonight's argument shows up in November. Craig, that's my honest question about tonight. Not who wins, but whether the losers' votes and their voters show up in November, on November the 3rd. We've seen both parties fail that test in the last decade. It happened, Trump 2020, regardless of whatever the vote count was. And we've seen it in midterm elections, people sitting on hands. But which side of the Democratic argument do you think is more likely to stay home if it loses?
The normal Democrats, not the DSA Democrats. I don't think Haley Stevens, because even Schumer and Timu Obama, Jeffers, the minority leader of the House, have not come out and supported any of these DSA candidates. Schumer got bit by supporting what's his face in Maine, and he's been extremely quiet the last month on these elections. He'll drop a hammer on Trump every now and then, but he's been pretty quiet. Cory Booker has really been the one from New Jersey's the one that's
shown up
carrying the Democrat water for any of these kind of things. But I don't think Cory Booker has endorsed anybody in Maine or anybody in Michigan.
Well, let's talk about some of the things that Mike Rogers, who is going to be the Republican nominee for the Senate in Michigan, some of his platform things. He wants to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S., it's specifically
Michigan.
the auto industry,
right,
and protect the domestic auto industry.
From Canada and bring them up from Mexico.
He focuses on lowering prices for gas, groceries, and prescription drugs. He wants cost of living to be a real thing. He advocates for increasing domestic oil and gas production to achieve energy independence. He emphasizes strong military funding, brings a hawkish-leaning national security posture, and has a strong support for international allies, including Israel, whether that will matter or not. And then he supports he supports early literacy assessments and educational saving options. Why does Mike Rogers, a Republican from Michigan, sound more like he's for the working class than any Democrat I've heard in the last 4 years?
The Democrats aren't for the working class anymore. They're sort of running on the Venezuela model of, we'll just promise all this free stuff to all the poor. We'll get all the poor all ginned up. They never come out and vote. We'll win our Democrats, which that was pre-DSA stuff. We'll win our Democrats. We'll get the poor to turn out for us because we're promising them all this free stuff, which they never deliver on. Madami ain't delivered on a single free thing yet. And now he's ventured into taking property from property owners to turn into housing for the poor. And they get to stay there for free.
I saw something interesting about Mamdani today, just to go off, our topic just a little bit. A very left-wing supporter of Mamdani, who has his own podcast. Was not Hassan Piker.
Oh, okay.
But this guy was very upset because Mamdani doxed him, essentially, put his name and address because of that pied-à-terre tax that he's going to have.
$5 million,
and so he listed all these people. Well, all of a sudden, Democrats are real upset about the fact that they supported this guy, and they're hurt by it. They're like, I was all for this, but why did he put my name in it? And essentially saying now I have a target. He even went on to say, he said, 18 months ago, you had a crazy person take the life of a healthcare executive, and you're putting my name out there and where I live. Now, why would a liberal be afraid of other liberals?
Anybody can search that database. It's online.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And they are not happy. But you and I and other people have said that's exactly what was going to happen.
Yep.
They don't care about you after they have your vote. They just want your money because they need your money to be able to provide everyone.
And then eventually they're going to run out of everybody else's money. You know, there's only so many millionaires and billionaires.
When socialism fails, right?
Yeah. Is there's so many millionaires and billionaires in New York. They're leaving in droves. They're trying to leave in droves even more. And same things happen in Chicago and Los Angeles, San Francisco. Seattle's really losing them. But Mondami's now, I'd say the vast majority, 80% of those people do not own a property that's valued at $5 million or have a net worth of $5 million.
And their response is, these are people who might.
Yeah,
their property
mistakes.
Might.
But now their name is in the public domain.
Right.
Don't think people are not printing it out before it gets removed so that they can remember this down the road. Because, hell, that's what I do. I print it out so before it's deleted. But these are people that started with nothing, because I've seen a bunch of the stuff on the New York news channels where they're interviewing people. We don't have nowhere near $5 million worth of property. We've been working our restaurant store for 40 and 50 years and some multiple generations. But why is our name on the list?
Right.
Why are we going to be attacked? Why are people? Because I remember one time in transportation, this secretary of my commissioner was making, back in the 80s, this is a lot of money, making $45,000 a year. Well,
rich.
And she got smoked within work, the talking circles and everything. But they didn't figure out she had been there 47 years.
Right. You get your.
So in reality, she ain't making squat for the amount of years that she put in.
2% raise.
That's not the thing. It's the perception. It's not the reality. Perception drives everything in this country.
It absolutely does.
And the DSA winning these is going to be the perception that they're running the Democrat Party and taking it over.
They already have.
And
they already have.
Couple more primaries, next week with Wong, or however you say her name. She's winning too. I mean, it's going to be September.
You're talking about the candidate for governor in Wisconsin, who
is
crazy, is a certifiable crazy person.
Another swing state.
Yeah,
Trump just happened to win this time, and he won in 2016, but he lost in 2020.
Yeah. Well, from the ballot box of the Persian Gulf, where the president said talks are back on, Iran said there are no talks, and the price of your pump is now $4.09. We told you last night that the president said negotiations with Iran would begin Monday, and that Iran's foreign ministry said flatly there are no negotiations with the United States. 24 hours later, that disagreement has gotten louder rather than quieter. The president said Monday that the two sides are resuming talks to wind down the war. Iran's foreign ministry spokesman repeated that there are no negotiations with the United States, that Tehran's only talks are with Oman, which, by the way, get Oman in check. Tell them we're talking to them if they're not going to talk to us. Not whether the strait as a whole opens, but a route that opens up that is not Oman, I would assume. Then the president responded, calling Iranian leadership unbelievably duplicitous and saying these talks are their last chance to forge a deal. We'll talk about what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said later, but there's a story that came out today, and I want to touch on this because it actually came out yesterday afternoon, and you and I talked about it privately, but now it's coming out that there may have been some shenanigans inside the Department of War or in the military somewhere, and we need to talk about that as well. Let's get into that right now.
In the region, as the Middle East waits to see if a deal will be reached or we'll see a return to war. Guys?
So Trey, real quickly, the president talked about the military operation that was leaked over the weekend. It's obviously, they need to figure out who's leaking from the White House. That has to be someone high within government that put that out there to sources. It's our job as the press to cover that. But I'm curious from your perspective and your sources on the state of play that league played out in the Middle East, and who then phoned the White House to get to the negotiating table.
It's a great question because these leaks can be substantial. And when you're looking at a situation with 50,000 U.S. service members, destroyers, refuelers, fighter jets across the region, the operational security is very significant whenever there are plans being made to strike Iran. And the president indicated he called off the planned strikes at the request not only of Iran, but also of Gulf allies like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. What was interesting, though, Lawrence, we spoke with senior Israeli intelligence officials over the weekend who said they weren't even aware of the details of the plan. And that's how close the administration was holding these details to the chest because of how sensitive it is in the region. And so moving forward, we do anticipate the Trump administration will do everything possible to ensure that they're not giving Iran a heads up. They want to keep the Iranians guessing as these diplomatic pathways play out, understanding that if the talks fail, we are likely looking at a return to combat operations.
So obviously, Trey, we are seeing the White House trying to keep their cards close to the vest, but there is also a tremendous buildup. We've watched a tremendous buildup over the last couple of months.
That's good.
We got a traitor in our midst. There's no doubt about it.
And this is not the first time the Department of War has had this issue. They have smoked out leakers in the past very, very ingeniously. By the way,
even Obama, during Obama,
and
main thing he says, "I'm getting these leakers."
And by the way, it's treasonous. You're putting 50,000 soldiers at risk, and that should not go without notice. And you said you saw today from Reuters or somebody that one of the reasons they may have called off the attack is because we may be low on ballistic missiles. Ballistic missiles. I think that's such garbage. I don't believe that for a second. Now, what is interesting about this is that the Trump administration said that what they were about to drop on Sunday into Monday, was going to be bigger than World War II. Now, I don't know which part of World War II.
The mother of all attacks. Yeah, it's going to be the mother of all attacks.
But that's a pretty big comment when you think about D-Day, when you think about firebombing,
Blitzkrieg,
all the stuff in Germany and things of that nature. But it was called off, and whether it was to protect our military assets or whether it was at the request of UAE, if there is somebody that is putting these people in danger, I think you would agree we need to get them out, and they need to be charged.
Yeah, it was Kuwait, UAE, and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
that asked. Israel didn't know, but the news media knew. So obviously somebody leaked it, and it's traitorous to our country to do this. We've been talking about this since we've been doing this podcast. Why does the media always immediately secret thing? But first thing, well, this is a national secret, but we're going to print it anyway.
Yeah, we're going to put it here
somebody
exactly
gave
how
them that information. And we don't know if they leaked it on purpose, which they do a lot of things, or
accidentally on purpose,
or it's a Snowden thing where he just dumped everything. We don't know if it's either one of those, and we never will because we're not inside those circles.
Right.
But this leak put in danger all kinds of soldiers. It ended a military plan.
It did.
Now, whether it was because of the leak or because of Saudi, UAE and Qatar requesting it, who knows? But it's not good any way it went. But the Reuters story, there's no way in the world that we're running low on missiles because we've been building up since Obama to fight a war on two fronts, one on the Atlantic side, one on the Pacific side. So trust me, we probably got hundreds of thousands of ballistic missiles.
The number is greater than your brain can probably even comprehend. Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said publicly that a deal to open the strait could come as early as today or tomorrow. Haven't seen one yet today. I've been watching the news as well here today. And that such a deal would allow freedom of movement for commercial vessels. And Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said the Oman discussions are in their final stages. Oil markets moved on that. Brent crude fell about 4.5% Monday to just over $83 a barrel. And now, just like you said, we're down. We're even lower than that. So the United States says a deal is
77.
So the United States says a deal is imminent. Iran says it's negotiating a shipping lane with Oman and not talking to America at all. Both governments are describing something real. They are not describing the same thing. Craig, the president is now calling them duplicitous for denying a negotiation he says is happening. Is there a reading where both sides are telling the truth, or are they just full of crap like they always are?
Full of crap. Just go in and end it, bomb it. More and more House members and senators are saying go in and end it. Other defense secretaries, who would now be Secretary of War, they're saying go in and end it. They're not war hawks, but they know this could drag on forever and ever. Why drag it on? Just go in and wipe the IRGC out completely. And
this is a great question that we just had here. Do you feel the tide is turning against Israeli-controlled politicians? I will tell you this.
That's why the DSA exists.
Yeah. The only country that does not have to register their foreign agents is Israel.
Mm-hmm.
That means that AIPAC has and I agree, both parties, AIPAC does not have to register their individual agents who are called handlers for each of the members of Congress. And every Congress member has a handler except Thomas Massey and maybe one other, I can't remember. But I think that's ridiculous. I think that you should absolutely require them to register as foreign agents, because otherwise, how do we know that we're doing the bidding for the United States and not the bidding for Israel? You wonder why people are getting rich while they're in Congress. It's because of terrible things like this. And by the way, as a foreign agent, you cannot provide any assistance, financial or otherwise, to individuals. But if you were not a foreign agent, if you were an American citizen, but you just happen to be of Israeli descent or be working for Israel, you don't have to lobby that. You don't have to tell anybody that. So
where's the hatred? Where's the hatred for the Jewish people come from? I don't understand it. It's more than. I was watching Law and Order last night, an episode back in 2008, and they were talking about Jews running New York. You know, it's a TV show, granted, but still, it was enough to make it on the television. And now you got so many young people that hate Israel. They want to do the divestiture of any kind of investment in Israel. I just don't understand where the hatred for Israelis has come from.
Well, Pop, thank you for watching us. I don't know if you're in the Emerald Isles, but if you are here in the States, wherever you're watching, thank you for watching us. I think there's a lot of feeling about that, Craig. I don't think this is Jew hate. I think this is a real question about, what influence does Israel have? I'm not talking about, any conspiracy theories on that. How is it that Israel has such direct line to Ireland, the United Kingdom, the United States?
Well,
Canada?
let me ask you this question: are they the only country that has direct links?
Well, they're the only ones who don't have to register as foreign agents.
But they're the ones that are always demonized in the press. But does Canada have influence over the United Kingdom?
Well,
Germany?
They're a part of the British protection. But I will say this: the difference here, I think, is that it only adds to the conspiracy. Why can't you just say go ahead and register as foreign agents? And the reason is because Israel would never do that, because they don't want. And again, self-preservation aside, I understand why they do it, but why is it that Israel has such control over those areas? And I'm not being anti-Jewish. I have Jewish family. I am all for protecting the Israeli state. What I am not for is another country. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Britain. I don't care if it's Canada. I don't care having any control over our the governance of our country. Would you agree with that?
Well, I don't know that they do. I mean, Chuck Schumer's Jewish. Josh Shapiro, in Kamala Harris's book, said he can't be the VP because he's Jewish. Where's all that come from? And Pop says this.
Yep.
Hang on, Israel killed 30,000 kids. They don't understand why they're turning against them. It's about humanity. What about the tens of thousands of rockets Hamas launched randomly into Israel I mean, where's the empathy for them? Where's this constant? Are you putting that back up there?
I put this back up there just to.
Okay. Oh, that's a different one.
Yeah.
Where's Israel has been getting bombed for decades. They've been fighting wars for thousands of years on their existence. If Hamas did not attack Israel on October 7, would any of this occurred? Think if somebody invaded America from Mexico or Canada or any country and wiped out those people, microwave babies, burned them alive, raped all their women, what would America do to that country? I mean, we would wipe them off the face of the earth, and our military wouldn't even have to do it. Americans would take out Canada by themselves. They wouldn't need the military to go do it. It's back and forth, but it seems Israel always a bad guy. The reason Palestine doesn't have water is they were taking the water pipes out of the ground and make them into unguided missiles and launching them into Israel. I mean, it's you got to really dive into this to see, and I know we don't want to do it, but you really got to dive into this and not just randomly take what somebody's telling you.
Well, I will tell you this: foreign taking out the foreign influence aspect of this, and again, Pop, thanks for hopping in here. We're gonna move on to the next story because we've got a couple others, but outside of that, you and I both agree we need a plan. We need a plan for whatever is happening with this war. We have to figure out what's happening, and we will be the first ones to say, without a plan, whether an exit plan or a finalization plan or whatever you want to call it, without that, you and I are going to be frustrated.
We got to quit negotiating because Iran's not going to negotiate. How many times have we said this is the last straw?
Yeah.
Numerous times. So.
Yeah. Let me move on to our next story. And speaking of things landing in your wallet, 25 states went to court yesterday. Before we get into the Rand Paul issues, to understand yesterday's lawsuit, you have to start in February, and this is one of the most significant Supreme Court rulings of the last decade that most people have already forgotten. On February 20th, the Supreme Court ruled that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the law the administration has used to impose sweeping global tariffs, does not authorize tariffs. The reasoning was constitutional and it was blunt. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that the framers did not vest any part of the taxing power in the executive branch. A tariff is a tax. The Constitution gives the taxing power to Congress, and an emergency power statute that never mentions tariffs doesn't hand that power to the president. That decision forced the government to send refunds to importers who had already paid. The administration's response was to reach for a different authority. First, temporary 10% worldwide tariffs, which expired at midnight on July 24th. And then last month, something more durable, double-digit tariffs on 59 countries and the European Union on the grounds that those countries had not done enough to crack down on imports produced by forced labor, something we can all agree on. Those tariffs run from 10 to 12.5%. And they hit countries that supply 99% of everything America imports at this point.
And it's an 1880 law, right?
It is. And Craig, I want to sit on the Roberts line because it's the whole ball game. The framers did not vest any part of the taxing power in the executive branch. That was something we knew was going to be an issue with this particular court and with this presidency. That's a Republican-appointed Chief Justice telling a Republican president that tariffs are Congress's call. How did that ruling not become a bigger issue back in February? Why now is this now being seen?
Because they found that new law that they're implementing now, and of course it'll go to court again. Trump's a firm believer because we didn't have income tax till 1913. Everything we were making from other countries was tariffs. We were running the country on tariffs. And then they implemented the tax because of World War I, the income tax, and said it was only going to be for 3 years.
Yep.
And then, of course, it becomes permanent like everything in the government. They tax it and say it's going away, and it never does. So
yeah,
it's going to be another battle in the courts and just see where it ends up.
It will. Yesterday, 25 states sued. Their argument is that the federal forced labor tariffs are a pretext, a workaround designed to replace the import tax. It is. I mean, nobody's denying that. which the Supreme Court struck down, dressed in a different legal authority. New York, but that's all. That's what any government does.
Yeah. I got a question on this though, but keep going.
Yeah, a workaround designed to import taxes. The Supreme Court struck down. New York Attorney General Letitia James, one of our favorites on this show, put it this way: after losing at the Supreme Court, the administration is once again trying to illegally raise taxes on families and businesses with a new round of tariffs. Now, here's where we're going to be straight with you, because this is not the same case the states won in February. It is different, and anybody telling you it's a slam dunk hasn't read it. The new tariffs were imposed under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974. That statute expressly permits a president to impose import taxes and other sanctions against countries found to engage in unfair trade practices. That is not an emergency power statute being stretched to cover something it never mentions. That is a trade statute doing exactly what it says, and there's precedent that cuts the administration's way. President Trump used Section 301 to impose large tariffs on China during his first term, and those tariffs survived court challenges.
Correct.
So the state's argument has to be about pretext, that the forced labor justification is the cover story rather than a genuine finding, and that hitting countries supplying 99% of America's imports isn't a targeted response to unfair practices. It's a global tariff wearing a costume. That's a harder case to make than the one they won in February. Craig, that's the honest tension right here when it comes to this. Section 301 is a real authority and it survived court review already 8 years ago. But applying a forced labor finding to countries covering 99% of our imports does invite the question of whether it's a finding or a formality. Which way do you think the court will go here? Because we now know that this will be expedited and it'll make its way to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, precedent's already been set, right?
Yeah.
Probably precedent was set a few years ago. Correct. So do you keep litigating the same thing over and over till you hope that they rule another way, or will this be one of those things where the Supreme Court says, hey, we've already ruled on it, we're not going to take it up, so it stands where it stands?
It absolutely could. I mean, that has happened in the past, and that is exactly what could happen here. My take is that it will likely make it to the Supreme Court in early part of next year, and arguments will happen probably maybe even by the end of this year. I doubt it. And then you'll probably have a ruling next year on this, but that doesn't change the fact that these things are happening. Well, they're happening right now. And I think that's and I think that's the thing that these 25 states are wanting to change right now. And it's going to be pretty difficult to do that when you are essentially arguing something that is precedent, that was just used by this same administration. So I think that's something to.
Now, my question, because I don't know how this works, how can Kentucky join this lawsuit group if the Attorney General is not the one bringing it forth? Can the governor do that on their own, or any citizen?
Actually gonna talk about that right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
Here's the local hook, because Kentucky is one of the 25 states on that filing. That's worth pausing on for a second. Kentucky is a state this president carried comfortably 3 times, twice when he won, but all 3 times. It has a Republican attorney general, a Republican supermajority, 80-20 at this point, in both chambers of the legislature, and a Democratic governor, which means that when Kentucky joins a lawsuit like this, the question of who actually signed it is a live one. In the previous tariff suit back in March, it was the governor of Kentucky and the governors of Kentucky and Pennsylvania who joined rather than their attorneys general, precisely because of that split. We tell you which it is this time, but we want to confirm it before we assert, and we will. What isn't in dispute is why a state like ours has a stake. We understand that. Urban industry, automotive industry, agriculture. We understand.
Number 3 auto state in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, in America.
We're one of the top aerospace companies.
And number 1 aluminum.
Yeah.
We're in the top 3 aerospace also.
Yeah. Kentucky is a manufacturing giant, believe it or not, and a logistics state. UPS Worldwide Hub is here in Louisville, which is one of the largest cargo operations.
Kentucky.
Tariffs on imported components raise input costs for the plants that employ Kentuckians. We know that. Retaliatory tariffs abroad hit bourbon and farm exports, which they have. And we've been through that cycle before. European retaliatory tariffs on America, for a week and a half or something. It was kind of crazy. So whatever you think of the trade policy in the abstract, the argument that is a distant Washington question, that's not true. But yes, in this case, it was the governor and the governor's office who signed off on this lawsuit.
Is that normal? Is that normal?
No, it's not normal, except for when you have a case like this, when you have an individual who has a super minority, if you will, in their legislature, and an attorney general that is not going to support your side of this. The other aspect of this, and I think you have to understand, is that Shapiro and Bashir are going to run for president. So
Yeah.
this is politics as much as it is caring about the people of the state of Kentucky. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, Shapiro's going to run, even though there's a lot of talk about just recently him not running because of because he's Jewish, thinking he wouldn't have a chance or he'd be attacked unmercilessly, whatever. But certainly, Governor Bashir, he is giving all kinds of indicators.
Yeah,
that he's running for president because he just released his book, and he's traveling the country. I think 20 visits, something like that, around the country to hawk his book.
Yep.
The last stop being in Concord, New Hampshire. So it's gonna. That's got to be the only reason they're doing it, right? I mean, Bashir getting in is because he's running for president.
Well, it does. Listen. The tariffs do affect Toyota. They affect UPS. They affect the bourbon industry. It affects everybody. So it's not like we're out on an island.
So let me ask this. Let me throw this at you. 197 countries have tariffs on the United States. They tariff our goods.
Yep. That
they can't live without. What is wrong? Why do we always have to turn another cheek and not tariff back?
Well, I think for years we haven't, and they've just.
But why haven't we? What I'm asking, because you look at these countries and you look at their income. Mm-hmm. They're making $800 a year. Yep. They're making $300 a year. They're making $2 a day. We're buying their goods. Is that the slave labor that
some of it is? Yeah,
they're running this on? And it's not just a few countries. If you look at half the planet, it's probably less than $10,000 a year.
Yeah.
So our poorest American would be the richest guy in many of these countries.
No, I agree. I think in this particular case, though, it was sold, and here's where I will once again say, it's just proof that you and I are not a monolith with this administration. It's sold as, we're going to protect the American people and the American economy, and then it gets struck down as an economic policy,
mm-hmm.
and then it gets dressed up in this forced labor idea. I almost wish he just used the forced labor idea to begin with, instead of doing it the other way, because he had the precedent and he could have used it.
And if any administration, something gets shot down, they look for another way to implement the same thing again and again, right? I mean, so that's normal course of business.
Yeah.
But for some reason, folks think that America never gets tariffed, and we get tariffed out of us.
Yeah.
Canada lays some over 100% tariffs on American goods, on some American goods. So when we put tariffs on Canada, a lot of Americans said, well, that's not fair, till they see what Canada's tariffs are to the U.S.
Yeah.
Same thing with all these other countries. Like I said, 197. I read that yesterday. 197 countries, which is almost every country on the planet, puts tariffs on United States goods.
Well, quick side topic, something that we should follow up on, because we had talked about it last week and then earlier yesterday, and then we'll also get into something a lot of you have been texting us about since Friday, to be honest with you. On Thursday, now they have set this for Thursday. The Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee votes on a resolution holding Dr. Anthony Fauci in contempt of Congress. Quick refresher of where this stands. Fauci appeared under subpoena last Wednesday and invoked his Fifth Amendment right more than 100 times over roughly 3 hours. The first time he's done that in more than 250 congressional appearances. Chairman Rand Paul's position is that the privilege doesn't hold because President Biden pardoned him. Paul has said he intends to send any contempt referral directly to the Justice Department rather than routing it through a full vote of the a full vote of the Senate. His reasoning being that while contempt messages usually go from committee to the floor, he doesn't believe any rule requires it. And here's the timing that ties tonight's show together. That referral would land at a Justice Department about to be run by Todd Blanche.
Right.
His nomination advanced out of a committee this morning. The precedent on what happens next is genuinely split. In 2013, IRS official Lois Lerner read an opening statement and then refused to answer questions. the closest parallel to what Fauci did. The
Mhm.
House held her in contempt, which that happened. The Justice Department declined to prosecute. Nothing happened except they chased her through the hallways of the Capitol,
Right.
with cameras, and the elevator doors closed. Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro were both held in contempt, prosecuted, convicted, and served
Put
prison
in
time.
jail.
Yeah.
In jail.
The penalty range is a fine up to $100,000 and up to 12 months. Craig, same conduct, opposite outcomes. Lerner walked, Bannon and Navarro went to prison. And the variable was essentially who ran the DOJ at the time. So I don't want to hear that this DOJ weaponizes things when those guys went to jail. Tomorrow's referral goes to a Justice Department run by the president's former defense attorney. Does anybody seriously not know how this is going to end up?
No, because he's going to be charged with contempt of Congress.
Yes.
It'll be a party line vote, except for maybe Fetterman might come over. But there have been some Democrats that have talked negatively about Fauci too, because of all this other information coming out. So, I still think it'll be a party line vote.
100%.
Yeah, but one thing I'll tell you, Kentucky has got some representatives and senators that are national as can be. You got Rand Paul with this. McConnell's been the majority leader for the longest in history, and he's
missing in action, and everyone's talking about it.
Jamie Comer is over the
House Oversight Committee.
And
will likely be the next governor of Kentucky.
Al Rogers is a senior House member. Opens up every House session. He's
the pork
king. He is definitely the pork king. So we've got some for a tiny state. And I'm going somewhere. Maybe tell me to stop if you want. For a tiny state, we've got a lot of power and a lot of things going on in the United States that shine a light on Kentucky. If they get rid of, like Democrats talk today, if they want to eliminate the Electoral College, smack the Supreme Court with 4 new justices, and that will. You might as well just forget the middle of the United States. You might as well forget Los Angeles County, New York City, and Chicago will run the country. We will truly be flyover states. So there's so much on the line, and this could be a precursor. I know that's really a reach, but to see how Congress views Fauci after all this information come out in the most damning document of all, his own diary, in his own words. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I heard today, I don't know if you heard this before I wrap up this section. I heard today that, because I did not read all 1,700 pages or 1,170 pages or whatever it is of his diary, that Fauci actually admits in his diary, Dear Diary, that he had COVID and that he actually had an issue of blood clots. Which never came out to the news.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
That's just trickling out over the last couple of days. And all those things that were potentially, side effects and things that people told you to be weary of, he never told anybody about the fact that he actually, suffered from blood clots that actually had made it to his lungs, it sounds like.
Damn.
From what I understand. But, what do I know? Quick take. I'll say... on Thursday, exactly what I said last week. I think Paul has a real legal question here. Whether a pardon extinguishes a Fifth Amendment privilege is genuinely unsettled in American jurisprudence, and he's not inventing it. I'd rather see it litigated than referred, just to be honest with you, because a court ruling on that question would outlive this administration and apply to people neither party has thought of yet. And I'm uneasy about Congress essentially squeezing a citizen's Fifth Amendment claim, even when the citizen is one that I have absolutely no sympathy for.
Yeah, and he's got a full pardon. Remember that. He's always got a full pardon.
That's right. That's just where we are at this point, because that protection is only worth what it's worth on your worst day. What I'd watch on Thursday isn't the vote. The vote's going to pass. We know that. It's whether anybody on that committee from either party says a word about the Lois Lerner precedent. Because if contempt of Congress only means something when your side runs the Justice Department, then it doesn't mean anything. And that's exactly what this means. And we should stop pretending it's a check on anybody, because it's not. Other than you have to live in fear if you are a leader of your party in power when the other side gets in power. That you're going to have.
How many have said they're going after Trump day one? If the House gets in control of Democrats, they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it. They'll impeach him 17 times in January.
Yep. Well,
of next year. So that's just what it is. But will he serve any jail time? I don't think so.
Nah,
they'll do. He's an 85-year-old man. He needs sympathy, all that kind of stuff. Now he's a mob boss. If he's in the mafia and he's 85, boy's going to jail.
It's a little different. Not what we have here with him. Though,
right.
So. Finally tonight, before we get out of here, let's talk something that you and I enjoy talking about. Let's talk a little UK sports. You good with that?
Oh yeah, let's go.
Okay, let's go.
For some reason, we're having all sorts of tech issues here. One of our scenes is not one to pop up, but
okay. I'm gonna say everything looks good.
There it goes. Yeah,
but Flock.
We did get a question. Yeah, tomorrow is Flock. For those of you who are or Thursday. Thursday is Flock. Thursday, August 6th, we will be discussing almost exclusively. We'll be talking and debating Flock, which you haven't quite made up your mind. Our guest is coming on, big supporter. I'm struggling with it myself, so I think we're gonna have a good discussion.
Yeah, I don't think it's an issue because we're surveilled with everything we do, from these things, to everything in between. And I'm an IT guy, 30 years. I know all about the not all of it because I've been retired for quite a while. But
a long time, Craig. You're an old man.
Yeah, I'm an old guy. We're surveilled. I'm on a laptop, iPad, desktop, iPhone, another iPad over here.
Save your argument for Thursday.
Yeah,
just say it. Let's get into some fun. Let's get into some fun stuff.
A non-issue? I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
let's have some fun.
Yeah. Friday, Judge Charlotte Sweeney of the U.S. District Court of Colorado granted a class-wide preliminary injunction against the NCAA. We talked about it yesterday. The class, every athlete who started competing in Division I in the 2022-2023 season and finished a fourth year of eligibility this past spring. Under the NCAA's new 5-for-5 rule that they just passed in June, those players were done. They were exempt from that new rule. The NCAA, essentially Sweeney, this judge, ordered the NCAA to create a blanket waiver, giving all of them another year, saying they'd suffer irreparable harm without it, and specifically declining to accept the NCAA's argument that this would create roster chaos, which is exactly what we have now, which is fine. We talked about it yesterday. 100%. We're here for the chaos. Yeah, bring the chaos. NCAA President Charlie Baker disagrees loudly, and the association is appealing on an expedited basis. It will be before the Court of Appeals in days. Here's what matters for us. The transfer portal for those players opened yesterday. If you can call it a transfer portal, it's still up in the air. There's all sorts of legal questions, and we're going to talk about some of those. One of the questions being, can you even transfer? Denzel Aberdeen entered the portal, even though he may not have eligibility. He may have done the right thing.
He might be the smart guy of all of them.
He might be the smart one out of all of them. And now you have guys who are like, I could transfer, but the NCAA may say, no, you didn't enter the transfer portal. You have to go back to your school, and your school already has 15 people on their basketball team, or their football team is already there. 1 week in August with a fall semester 3 weeks out, and Kentucky is one of the very few high-power programs walking into that window with a scholarship to offer. And I don't even know why we call it scholarship, a position on the team to offer, because
the NIL
way beyond just going to school for free. Because Mark Pope has been sitting on this 15th roster spot all summer long. His words in July, I love our roster right now. I like the way the pieces fit, but we have a spot open. And then we're definitely holding this spot to see if there's something that can make us better. But I like this group right now. I'd go to battle with this group in a second. He saw this coming.
Sure he did.
he saw this coming.
Smart guy.
Most programs filled. This guy was a semester away from being a medical doctor, an actual medical doctor, unlike Abdul El Said,
and a Rhodes Scholar.
A Rhodes
nominee.
Scholar. And I will tell you, I went to school, very intelligent guy, very, very smart guy. Most programs filled their rosters anyway because of the uncertainty. This happened along with what happened in Tennessee. There's a North Carolina lawsuit. The NCAA wants to consolidate all those cases. It's a good argument. We should probably just have one argument about this instead of all these. I don't know that the Court of Appeals that includes Colorado and Wyoming and some states, I don't know that that's the place that it should be argued, but it may end up being the place. Craig Pope took some heat all summer for an empty scholarship and an empty position on the team. Turns out he may have been waiting for a court ruling nobody could guarantee. Is that patience, good intelligence, a little bit of luck? What do you want to give credit to for this?
Well, since the same rumor went out about Florida, is that they saw this coming. I've seen it on some of the Florida Facebook pages that they saw this coming. Maybe Pope the same thing. Press just didn't report on it or nothing, and that's why he's been holding out this spot, because he could have found anybody, even a walk-on, and just give them the scholarship because of their 4 years of hard work, something like that.
Or open tryout and pull some kid that played at some small school,
right,
Kentucky, whatever.
And so, call it luck, call it fate, call it his brain power.
Yeah. Dark Pope.
Yeah, anything. But if the three people we talked about yesterday, we get any of them, you're going to add 18 points a game. You're going to add 10 rebounds to a game. It's going to be a huge addition if we're lucky enough to get any of the three, especially the player. My favorite player would be to get the one from Auburn.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about who's out there, because it's a big deal, right?
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah.
Let's start with the one Kentucky is actually contacted, because Kentucky Sports Radio confirms the staff has been in touch with them. Keyshawn Hall, 6'7". Some places he's listed as 6'8". Forward out of Cleveland, coming off a year at Auburn. That was his fourth school in 4 years. After UNLV, George Mason, and UCF, he was all SEC third team. He averaged 19.3 points a game, 7.1 rebounds, and 2.6 assists. Wow, that's good. On 45%
in the SEC, that's real good.
38 from three, and 86% from the line. 36 games, 36 starts. I like that durability. You're bringing in a dude. You're bringing in a grown man playing against some youngsters. Kentucky fans will remember him in Auburn's win over the Cats in February. He went for 10 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists, and dominated down low at times. And Kentucky is not alone. John Rothstein reports St. John's, Indiana, Kansas, Gonzaga, SMU, LSU, of course LSU, because LSU doesn't have any players.
They got, what you say, four players?
They have 4 players on their team. Providence and UCF are all in on him. Second name, Jackson Kohler, this Michigan State forward, 6'10", 245. Shout out to my Sparty family up in Michigan. Sorry, guys. 12.5 points and 8.9 rebounds a game. Third best rebounder in the entire Big Ten. Outside of Michigan, the University of Michigan, that's pretty impressive.
Yes.
And he ranked top 25 nationally.
You can't lose with any of these.
No. 50% from the floor. He's also Tom Izzo's captain last year. If you're a captain for Tom Izzo, come on board, young man.
Yeah,
I'm all for that. That is exactly what you need. 50% from the floor and 38.9% from three on 4.3 attempts a game after taking barely one a game as a junior. Rothstein has Kentucky, Kansas, and BYU interested. Sounds like it's between BYU and Kentucky, if that's what they really want to talk about. Mm-hmm. Third name has come available and mentioned some. He, as of earlier today, had not been contacted by the University of Kentucky, but he's out there. His name is Mark Mitchell, 2 years at Duke, 2 years at Missouri, second team All-SEC last season. 18.3 points, 5.2 rebounds, 3.6 assists on 55% shooting. He's the only Tiger to start all 33 games and the second player in Missouri history to lead his team in scoring, rebounding, and assists in the same year. He entered the portal on Friday when this actually came out. Yeah. Craig, this is supposed to be the 15th roster spot, the last chair, the one that's a walk-on in some years, as we talked about. The guys available for it average 19, 12, and 18 points at this level. And the one who scored 12 actually, is just as well known for his rebounding.
Yeah.
What happens to a locker room in August when your final edition walks in as potentially one of your best players?
He could be, any other year he'd be a starter on UK. Any of the three would be starters on UK. But they're coming in the fifth year. At the end, they're getting a gift, in a roundabout way of saying, in the court ruling or in the decisions. Like I said yesterday, it could be, I'm going to come in and play, get me 10 or 12 minutes a game. I'm going to make $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million this year, and I'm not going to have to work the rest of my life.
Yeah.
It could be, that's why I said it could be a gift, a financial gift for these guys, a blessing put upon them by the NCAA gods that they can set. Some of these guys could be married now if they're 23, 24 years old.
We had guys that were married last year. We had 2 guys on the team that had
Colin
kids.
Chandler. Yeah. So we can't lose. If we get any of those three, we can't. I prefer the Keyshawn Hall first, and then the 18-point scorer that you mentioned, Mike Mitchell second.
I got to go with Kohler. I think he's the cleanest answer to the actual problem, because this team finished 158th nationally in rebounding rate last season.
Yeah.
And that is not a rough patch. That's the thing that ends Kentucky seasons in March. The third best rebounder in the Big Ten, who just added 39% three-point shooting. Listen, all these guys would be great.
All of them would be.
I wish we had 3 spots.
I wouldn't be upset with any of them.
But I think he's also a leader. I think that's something, then you have Hall, who probably has the highest ceiling of any of these guys. I'm not going to lie about that. However, I will tell you, I'm reading the thing here. Hall has been in 5 different programs. If he comes here, it'll be his fifth program, 5 years.
He's grown at each one.
He's grown, gotten better each time.
So he can adapt and overcome pretty quick, easily.
Yeah.
But either way, we won't lose. I just want to get one of the three. I don't want to be missing all 3 of them, because they'll bash Pope again, call him Mr. Dr. Whiff and, stuff like that. And just get one of the 3 if we're fortunate enough to do that. And it's Final Four time for us. Yeah.
I think anybody you bring can get us across that finish line to make us a real contender. For any of you who are new here, this is a news show. But yes, we're going to talk about Kentucky basketball in August. That's what we do. It's who we are. And you're right, Brian. I appreciate the trash talk. I agree. He is living rent free in my head right now, because I'm interested to see what happens tonight. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in Michigan. Yeah. Craig, one other thing that I want to mention about this, and it is worth noting, dealing with the university with this new rule that just came out. It does not just affect basketball; it affects football as well. Alex Afari, who was a linebacker that played at Kentucky last year, was our leading tackler last year, is considering coming back. Now, he is on the practice squad for the Green Bay Packers, or at least he's on there.
It's Stein talked to him.
Yeah, he has, and I'll actually point to it right here. Will Stein says he hasn't talked to Alex Afari returning. However, he did say there's going to be a group of guys that were here last year that if this actually happens, if I can enhance the roster and make us better, I'm going to do it. And I believe everything. I believe everything that dude says.
Yeah, won't he make us better, right?
Oh, he'd make us.
He'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, because our offense, we know what we have with our offense. Right? I understand we have a quarterback that but we've seen what he can do. He competed with some of the best in the country with Carr and those guys.
And we got
our defense is the one thing that has questions right now.
Yeah, we got an offensive line to protect him.
Yep.
And we can bring back our leading tackler. It's going to be fun.
Guys. He says there's guys that they could bring back. So I'm down for that. I mean, that's going to be exciting.
Football's going to be fun. Basketball's going to be even more fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good winter. I won't feel bad being parked in front of the TV watching sports all winter long.
No, but before we get there, you're going to be parked in front of the TV tonight as you watch those primaries in those states.
Yeah, I'll have a laptop on one tray, on the left side of the tray, and I'll have my iPad on another. And just be watching returns come in and see how everything comes out.
Yeah, totally agree. Anything before we get out of here tonight?
Go Big Blue.
Go Big Blue. We covered a lot tonight. We will have a lot to talk about tomorrow night, the direction of the Democrat Party from moving forward and what that means, as well as all of the press conferences that will probably be held as well. Craig, thank you as always. I always appreciate you having here. For those of you who joined us tonight, thank you guys for joining us. Whether you're on the right or the left, whether you want to discuss politics or want to just talk about UK sports, we can't thank you guys enough. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you click on that notification bell. It doesn't cost you a thing. It means the world to us, though. You guys have made us one of the fastest growing podcasts out there for our size. And make sure you share this with someone who needs to be above the noise. But until next time, make sure that you stay informed, stay sharp, stay above the noise. Everybody have a great Tuesday night. We will talk to you guys tomorrow at 5 p.m. See ya. Bye.